everyone, welcome to the Hindu Current Affairs for Beginners. We'll start our session first with the answers for the questions from our yesterday's video. The first question is, which among the following organizations publishes Global Energy and Carbon Dioxide Status Report? It is the International Energy Agency. The answer is C. The next question is, which one of the following links all the ATMs in India? The answer is National Payments Corporation of India, so it is C. Now let's start our today's session, and these are all the topics that we are going to cover in our today's video. Our first article is Successful Anti-Satellite Missile Test Puts India in Elite Club. This article comes under GS Paper 3 under the topic of Achievements in Science and Technology. This article is all about Indian scientists have successfully conducted a mission named as Mission Shakti in order to shoot down a live satellite target in the lower Earth orbit. First of all, we should know what is this Mission Shakti, and we should know about this lower Earth orbit and which weapon this mission has used to shoot down the satellite in this lower Earth orbit. It is the anti-satellite weapon system. We should know even about this. First, let us see about this Mission Shakti. This Mission Shakti is a joint program of DRDO, that is Defense Research and Development Organization, and Indian Space Research Organization. It is a joint program of DRDO and ISRO. As part of this mission, an anti-satellite weapon was launched to shoot down the satellite that is there in this lower Earth orbit. By doing so, India became the fourth country in the world that demonstrated its capability to shoot down satellites in an orbit. So far, only United States, Russia and China had these capabilities. And now India had joined into this club. And then, what is this low Earth orbit? A low Earth orbit refers to an altitude up to 2000 kilometers from the Earth's surface. So, a satellite in this orbit, it can monitor activities on the ground and also on the water surfaces. And this satellite can be used for spying, and it can pose a serious threat to the country's security in case of a war. So from this article, from the prelims point of view, what you need to know is what is this Mission Shakti, and we should know about this lower Earth orbit, and what is this anti-satellite weapon system. And now let us see some of the details of this mission. Under this mission, DRDO has tested anti-satellite missile which hit a live satellite in the lower Earth orbit of 300 kilometers. So from this we can say that this anti-satellite weapon system is a technological capability to hit and destroy a satellite that is in the space by launching missiles. It can destroy these satellites in the space through missiles that were launched from the ground. And we should know why these satellites are the target. We know that satellites have become the important infrastructure for every country in these days, because so many important applications are now satellite based. Like we have been seeing our GPS, that is a location tracking system, and navigation systems, communication networks, broadcasting, banking, stock market, weather forecasting, disaster management, military applications, all these were satellite based. So if you destroy a satellite, that means you are making all these applications useless. So this anti-satellite weapon system is capable of crippling down the enemy infrastructure without causing any threat to the human lives. The next article is Anti-Sat weapons date back to Cold War. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of achievements in science and technology. So in this article, it is talking about the history, the background of these anti-satellite weapon system. And we have just now seen that this has the capability to hit and destroy a satellite in the space through missiles that were launched from the ground. And these weapon systems were having a long history, and they were not produced now, but they were the products of Cold War between United States and the Soviet Union, that is USSR. And later, again it came back into picture in 2007 when China conducted an anti-satellite missile test in 2007. Then China's target was Chinese weather satellite. And later, the United States of America has launched Operation Burnt Forest in order to destroy a non-functioning satellite named as USA-193. The next article is Electoral Bonds Will Affect Transparency. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of Polity and Governance. Here, the Election Commission has told the Supreme Court that these electoral bonds will affect the transparency in political funding. This is because of the amendments, new changes that were brought to the election funding. If we see, some of the reforms are, there is no upper limit on foreign funding. There is no upper limit for foreign funding to these political parties. In the electoral bonds, they invite even the foreign corporates to impact the Indian politics. And donations that were received through the electoral bonds will not cause a serious impact and transparency in the funding of political parties because they need not be revealed under the Representation of People's Act. So, these amendments, these changes will result in pumping of black money for political funding through the shell companies, and it will allow the foreign funding of political parties in India, which will lead to influence of these politics by foreign companies. So from the prelims point of view, what we need to know from this article is what are these electoral bonds. Electoral bonds. These bonds will allow a person to donate the political parties using banks as an intermediary to fund these political parties. Though it is called as a bond, but it resembles a promissory note, but there will be no interest for this funding. And this electoral bond will not have the name. There will be no name of the person whoever is donating, and this can be purchased of any value, for any value, like in multiples of 1,000, 10,000 up to 1 crore rupees. And who can purchase these electoral bonds? Only the persons, only the citizens of India can purchase this, or an entity that is incorporated in India can purchase these electoral bonds. And to whom they can donate? They can donate to all the political parties, only to the political party that is registered under the Representation of People's Act of 1951, and also a political party which have secured not less than 1% of the votes in the previous Lok Sabha elections or state legislative assembly. Only these parties were eligible to receive these electoral bonds. So here only the bank, whichever is issuing this electoral bond, will know who is the donor, but as the bond will not contain the name of the donor, the details will not be disclosed. And how these political party will encash this electoral bond? Every political party has to open an authorized account and only in this account they can encash this electoral bonds. And the validity of this electoral bond is only 15 days, and post 15 days it will be expired. The next article is in 2018 Official Secrets Act invoked in 5 cases. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of polity and governance. If we see into this article, the Ministry of Home Affairs has issued 5 prosecution sanction orders last year under this Official Secrets Act. So from the prelims point of view, what we need to know is about this Official Secrets Act. This Official Secrets Act is meant for ensuring secrecy and confidentiality about the government affairs, mostly on the aspects related to national security. If we see the background of this act, this Indian Official Secrets Act was first enacted in 1904 during the time of Lord Curzon, who served as Viceroy of India from 1899 to 1905. At that time, this act was enacted in order to voice out the national publications, that is the press. And later, the Indian Official Secrets Act was amended in 1923, and this has replaced the earlier 1904 Act. And this has extended to all the matters of secrecy and confidentiality in governance in the country. And this law deals with 2 aspects. One is spying and disclosure of secret information of the government. Here the secret information can be any official code, password, sketch, plan, model, or any article or any note or any document or any information. It can be in any form. If this was being done by anybody, then under this act, then the person will be penalized. The next article is India Impact to Ease US Firms Compliance. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy. The subtopic is effects of liberalization on the economy. So this article is about India and United States. Both India and United States, they have signed an intergovernmental agreement for exchanging the country by country reports. So now let us see what are these country by country reports, and also in this article there is mention of a term known as base erosion and profit shifting project. Let's look into what are these. First, India and US have signed an intergovernmental agreement for exchanging country by country reports in order to ensure that all the tax authorities will have access to same information about an multinational company's value chain and the resulting tax consequences. Here we said that all the tax authorities, whether in India or in the US, will have the information, they will have same information about a multinational company. From the name itself, we can say that a multinational company is a company which will have its branches in many countries. Its subsidiaries will be there in many countries. So, all the tax authorities of these countries will have same information about the income or profits of this multinational company. So this agreement will enable the countries to automatically to exchange these country by country reports that were filed by the parent companies. For example, let us say there is a company based in America, and this company also had a branch in India, and it had a branch in France. It also had a branch in, for example, it had a branch in South Africa also. Then this parent company, these companies were called as subsidiaries of this parent company. So this parent company will file the reports in its country and regarding its profit and income, and these reports which were filed in America can be exchanged now with India, because India has signed this country by country reports agreement with US, so that now the subsidiary company in India need not do a local filing of these CBC reports, and this will reduce the compliance burden on the local authorities. And this country by country report will contain the list of all the subsidiary entities of this multinational company. It will have the details of all these subsidiaries that were operating in which jurisdiction. For example, in India there is one subsidiary, in France there is one, and in South Africa there is one. It will have the details of all its subsidiaries and what is the nature of the main business activity of each entity, and this information will enable a higher level of assessment of tax risk by both the tax administrators, that is by India as well as US. Now let us look into what is this base erosion and profit shifting project. See, from the name itself we can say that base erosion and profit shifting. This is a term to indicate the tax avoidance strategy by an MNC. The multinational companies will have some strategies to avoid tax, and this is one among them. What they will do here is, a company now for its profits or from its income, it has to pay tax to the government, which is a revenue to the government. So the government will have a tax base from this company, because here the government has imposed tax as a certain percentage for its profit. So now what these multinational companies were doing is, they are taking the advantage of loopholes in the legislation, tax legislations in the country, and they are shifting these profits into the countries where they will have less taxes comparing to its origin country. So these countries are called as tax havens. So this is known as profit shifting. By doing so, what is happening here? The tax base of the government is eroding. So from this we can say that base erosion and profit shifting. So in order to avoid this, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development under the authority of G20 countries has considered some ways to revise the tax rules, and they came up with a project known as Base Erosion and Profit Shifting Project. And this project has developed an action plan, and this action plan includes 15 detailed actions that a government can take in order to reduce the tax avoidance by the multinational companies. So this Action 13 report in this project talks about this country by country reports, which will provide a way for the multinational companies, enterprises to report annually every year for each tax jurisdiction in which they do the business, about the information of its income, about its taxes that were paid to the in whichever jurisdiction they were doing. It should report the details every year, and this report is known as country by country report. And we said that it is OECD which brought out this project. What is this OECD? Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It is an international economic organization that was established in 1961, and it is based in Paris. It has 35 members, and the aim of this organization is to stimulate economic progress across the world, and its members are committed to democracy and market economy. Is India a member to OECD? No, India is not a member to OECD. And what about this G20? A group of 20 countries. It is an international forum which includes 19 of the world's largest economies plus European Union. And this is a forum for economic, financial and political cooperation. It will address major challenges across the world in order to generate public policies that will help to resolve these challenges. The next article is Deposits Ordinance does not cover gold schemes. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of Polity and Governance. So here this article is all about the central government's recent ordinance to ban unregulated monthly deposit schemes will not affect the ongoing monthly schemes that were being operated by jewellery and chit fund firms. So last month, the Union Cabinet has promulgated an ordinance with regard to banning of unregulated deposit schemes bill in order to protect the investors from the Ponzi schemes. We have seen what is meant by Ponzi schemes in our yesterday's video. So what is the importance of this scheme? This ordinance will tackle the illegal deposit taking activities that were going on in the country due to the gaps in the strict administrative measures, and it will ban the unregulated deposit taking schemes, and the law has provisions even for punishing these deposit takers, and it will make sure that they repay the deposits when these schemes meant to raise deposits in an illegal manner. The next article is a blow against Article 370. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of Polity. From this article, now let us see about this Article 370. The analysis of this article will be done by Dr. Rambabu sir in DEEP program. Now just let us see what is this Article 370. This Article 370 of the Indian Constitution is a temporary provision that will grant special autonomous status to the state of Jammu and Kashmir under the Part 21 of the Indian Constitution, which deals with temporary, transitional and special provisions. The state of Jammu and Kashmir was accorded with a special status under this Article 370, and all the provisions of the Constitution which are applicable to other states are not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. That means the jurisdiction of the Indian Parliament with regard to the state of Jammu and Kashmir is limited only in the matters of Union list and also the concurrent list, but there is no state list for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And with regard to the other states, the residuary powers of the legislation will belong to the Parliament, whereas in case of Jammu and Kashmir, the residuary powers belongs to the legislature of Jammu and Kashmir, with some exceptions like where the Parliament will have the exclusive powers in preventing the activities that are related to disrupting the sovereignty or integrity of India or secession. All these, the Parliament will have the exclusive powers, and the powers to make laws related to the preventive detention also belongs to the state legislature of Jammu and Kashmir, not to the Indian Parliament. So, according to this article, the Jammu and Kashmir state will enjoy the privileges compared to the other states of India. Now let's see our prelims questions. The first question is, India is not a member in which among the following? And the next question is, consider the following statements with regard to electoral bonds. Try to answer these questions and post your answers in the comment box. In our tomorrow's video, we'll see the answers for these questions. Thank you.